Hello everyone. We warmly welcome all of you to the workshop of Oration 2020. First of all, we have a very special announcement to make. But wait, it is a surprise for all of you. So we request all of you to join with us until the end of the workshop. So before starting off, I would like to give you a brief introduction about what is Oration 2020. Oration 2020 is the third instance the Gavel Club of University of Colombo is handling an English language intra-faculty English speech competition for the university undergraduates of University of Colombo. This time, we are organizing this event in collaboration with the Career Guidance Unit of Faculty of Science, University of Colombo. Also, as the organizing committee, we have decided to conduct this workshop as to give the contestants with a better understanding of effective communication. And also, I would like to make this moment to introduce our exclusive workshop sponsor, who is none other than Creative Software, which is also a leading and dynamic software development company in the arena of information technology, which also assisted us immensely to make today's program all a success.
Welcome to Creative Software, home of some of Sri Lanka's finest software professionals known as the Creatives, develop solutions loved by millions all over the world. Well, maybe not in Antarctica. So who exactly are the Creatives? Meet Lakmal. He works on a world-leading Swedish customer experience app. Lakmal is uber curious about all things tech. He devours new technologies, so keeping up with him is a bit of a challenge for his team. But it's a good challenge to have. He keeps them on top of their game both at work and at the foosball table. Work hard, play hard, right? Hi Iranga. Iranga is often quiet, but he's an undercover genius, PhD candidate. Iranga? Hey. Oh, yes, the visa appointment. His team is going on a Viking trip to Sweden. Last year it was skiing in Åre. Hey. This is Dilhari, the lady boss. Her team works on an innovative Danish advertising platform. While Dilhari is not too busy breaking the glass ceiling of tech industry, she enjoys art and crafts and will probably make your next birthday card. It will be the best damn card you've ever seen. Meet Sharan. He may be in his late 20s, but this guy is one of Sri Lanka's most promising entrepreneurs. His e-learning platform, Layup, is dominating the local and conquering the international market as you're watching this. He came to us when he was just a babypreneur. Now look at him, all grown up and ready to take over the world. We're so proud. Meet Sushena and Jonas, the creative directors. Jonas isn't at the office today, but he sends his regards. Even though they are the directors of one of Sri Lanka's leading software companies, you can say hi to them anytime you want. Creative Software is a flat organization, which means that all creatives are equal. Whether you are an intern, a software engineer or manager, it doesn't matter. We are all different, but we are all one team. A team of smart, game-changing, fun-loving and, well, creative software professionals doing what we love and what we do best. We are the Creatives. Interested in joining us? Getting in is not easy, but we encourage you to try. Go to our careers page and apply today. Good luck.
And now I would like to introduce our exclusive media partner, Force Media, who is also assisting us to live stream today's event. Without further ado, now I would like to introduce our guest speaker for today's workshop, who is a champion speaker in evaluation and table topic contest District 82, Sri Lanka and Tamil Nadu, also a director, performance strategist in Blue Mango Partners, and currently who also works as the co-founder of Colombo Green Wall, none other than Toastmaster Sandun Fernando. Toastmaster Sandun Fernando, over to you.
Thank you, and good evening to everyone, and a warm welcome to Oration. So I need to start by saying my journey of Toastmasters also started because of one of my close friends, who was back then an undergraduate student at University of Moratuwa, and I basically didn't have much of a fear of public speaking or the fear of audience or anything. I was in fact the opposite. I think I was pretty much known as a circus monkey my whole life. You put me in front of an audience and rest assured, I just take flight. I was very comfortable. So when my friend introduced me to Toastmasters, he said, you just need to learn when to stop talking. So yeah, that's the start of my Toastmasters career. Wasn't necessarily because I wanted to train myself to speak in the public, but it was more because my friend thought that I need to learn how to shut up. So here I am after 12 years approximately, still trying to shut up. I'm getting there, I'm getting better, but it's a lifelong journey. Just like me, a lot of you have your own reasons for joining Toastmasters, but whatever it is, we will discuss that later, but keep that in mind. That's important, because whenever we want to do something in life, if we have a very strong why, if you have a reason as to why we are doing things, and that reason is strong enough, it doesn't matter whatever the challenges lie ahead, you can always keep at it. And the next thing is about competitions. Today, essentially, we are talking about competitions and how to get ready for a competition, and how do we come up with a winning speech, and not just that, how do we deliver a winning speech, and hopefully at one point, how do we win a speech contest? That's basically the idea, and that's what I want to share with you. And I must confess at the onset that I am not very good at this, how do I say, online presentation thing. I am your touch and feel guy. I need my audience in front of me. And if any one of you have ever been with me through a workshop before, you probably understand I'm the guy who probably at the beginning of the workshop, I will look at my audience and I'll ask, why are you here? What do you want to learn? And sometimes I might even start my entire presentation from that premise, because that's how much I like to interact with the audience. And also not just that, I also believe that you need to know what is it that you need to know. Let me repeat that. You need to know what is it that you need to know. Or in other words, all of you need to have an idea about what is it that you want out of this workshop. And if you are not clear about what is it that you're looking for in this workshop, there is a very high chance that at the end of this workshop, at the end of this session, you might still feel like, I don't know whether I got the value or not. And the worst part is you are giving roughly about 1 hour to 90 minutes of your life to this. And if you have not gained anything at the end of it, or if you have not mastered something at the end of this 1.5 hours, that is also not one of the best things to be. So these are the reasons why I need to apologize at the onset that we will have to learn and we will have to pick up as we go, because I don't have all of you in front of me to find out whether you're really digging into what I am saying, and to see if you all have any doubts and if I can clarify that. So because of that, I'm going to go through a few things from the beginning. And what I would like is for you to keep interacting with me throughout. I know we have a nice Q&A plan towards the end of the session, but in the meantime, if you all want to maybe share your Q&A, your questions, please feel free to do that. I understand that we are going live on Facebook as well. I'm assuming my team here will let me know if you get any inquiries on Facebook. But as far as Zoom is concerned, and all of you who are joining us through Zoom, feel free to go ahead and start. Right? So, starting off with, before getting into the nuts and bolts of the speech construction and all of that, let me start by asking the question, why do you compete? Why do you want to take part in this contest? That why is very important, and it's very different from one person to another. I remember when I started competing, I just thought it will be nice. I have been a competitive person most of my life, and I have been involved in competitive sports. So as I started work, as I finished my school life and I started work, I couldn't really continue getting involved with the competitive sport. So because of that, I missed that part of life, competition. And then when I came across Toastmasters, as I joined and I started competing, and then I felt that sense of competition in me taking flight, and it's getting an opportunity, and I was feeling a little alive, and that's what I was competing for. But the fact that I was missing this part of life, and I was really glad to get back to it. And then after a couple of contest seasons, after a couple of, I would call successes as well, but not really winning the highest level, but being successful, winning a few competitions. My mentor, who's also a very close friend, and also most of you probably know him, he's the 2014 World Champion of Public Speaking, Mr. Dhananjay Hettiarachchi. At one point, he stopped me and he asked, bro, why do you compete? Then I gave him a lot of answers. I tried to cover my answers. I made it a table topic and I said it. Then he realized that I was trying to bullshit. So he's like, no, tell me, Will, why do you compete? And that day I realized I was competing because there was competitions, because I was missing competitions, and I'm a competitive person. That's what I thought about myself. And I gave him all possible answers. I told him I didn't know, I mean this, that, and everything. And that day he corrected me, saying, if you compete only to win, you have lost before you start the contest. If you compete only to win the contest, then you have already lost before you even start. Not to say that wanting to win is not important, it's very important. In fact, you should want to do that. That's how you're going to put your best self out there. But that shouldn't be the only reason why you are getting win. Then I asked him, like, okay, so why are you saying? Why do you contest? And what other objectives are there? And then he said something nice. He said, I compete because I want to get better. And every time I contest, and I contest with very smart, very capable speakers, and I go against them, I always push myself to be better. Generally or genuinely, it is about myself. I want to be better than what I was. But at the same time, when I go neck to neck with these type of really good competitive speakers, I learn from them and I also get better. So winning, all of that is there, but mostly it is for me to discover my best version. So that was quite an eye-opener for myself. I believe this was around 2012. Yeah, this was around 2012, 13. By that time, Dara has already started contesting, and he was probably into his 9th or 10th year of contest. And that insight that he shared with me completely changed my perspective and the way I looked at competitions. And because of that, it changed my journey as well. And then absorbing that knowledge and internalizing it, and then starting to compete with the purpose of getting better and becoming my best version and giving my best speech every opportunity that I get, helped me immediately in 2014. Was my first big win. I was the first runner-up at District 82. Not in one contest, but in 2 competitions. So then I realized this, and then I got a taste. And in 2015, I got a little complacent, I would say. I didn't really go to the district finals even. I did in one competition, but then the other one I didn't. So then I discovered that knowing why is good, and repeating this again and again is also good. But at some point, you've got to come up with what is called the winning ways, the winning strategies, the winning even when you practice, you've got to have a winning way, not just ordinary way, but winning way. So I'm going to share with you a few of that. But that's the idea. First, you should know why you contest, and then once you understand that, somewhere down the line, you've got to know that it is about pushing yourself to be better. And then once you've established that, you've got to know there are ways, there are better ways, what are called winning ways, to even prepare, to practice, deliver that ensures. And that resulted in 2016 being one of the most successful years in my life, where not one, but I won 2 district competitions in one Toastmasters year at the time, or if not, I think still I'm the only Sri Lankan. Again, not to say that I'm anything better, but to say that whatever I'm sharing with you, these are not just thoughts, these are not just things I picked up reading a book or listening to someone else. No, this is very much my story. This is what I have been through. Like I said, this is my 12th year in Toastmastering, and it has only helped me to get better in life, not only as a person, not only as a speaker, but as a professional, as a friend, as a husband, as a father. In all the roles that I play in life, Toastmasters has helped me to do it better. I would very easily say my life is at a better place right now because of Toastmasters. So these are a few things for you to think about as you think about competitions as well. I will connect these things towards the end. Now, let us get to the meat of the presentation. Where do you start when you want to prepare a speech, whether it is for a competition or whether it is for a general Gavel Club meeting or Toastmasters meeting? Where do you start this process? I would always say you start this process with what we call a seed. A seed, like how do you say it? A seed of a plant. Right? So all great speeches or all competition speeches start with a seed. And the seed is an idea. Sometimes people say that this is a foundation phrase. No, I think you come to that later. First, it's an idea. And this idea can be a riveting story. It can be an experience that you had in life. It can be a story. It can be an experience. It can be a person in life who has influenced you a lot. Or it can even be a message that you have learned, a message that you read somewhere. What is important about the seed is that your seed is the birth of your speech, and also it is the one thing that is holding the speech together. So ask yourself as of now, what are some of the best seeds you have in terms of your speech creation? Like I said, one of the most common seeds that a lot of speakers have is an incident or an experience in life, what we call a story. Something happened to you, something so profound, something so significant that it's in your heart and you want to speak about that. That's a good place to go, right? A lot of other speakers that I have met have also discovered people in their life, people who have influenced them so much that they're deeply connected to, attached to, that they want to speak about them. That is also really good. Or in other words, or in other instances, there are some speakers who they probably read something, they probably listen to some music, they hear a song and a line, lyrics in there, or a phrase that really get them excited. Whatever it is, I would say start your journey there. And I usually laugh about this, but I've heard some people talk about, oh, we start with the title, or we start with the topic, or we start with the header. I'd say no. Sometimes I have written my header just before going on stage. As I was completing my contestant form, I have written the title of it, because the title is important, but it's one of the last things that come. Don't ever start a speech because you have a title, no. Unless the title is a message and it's a seed, right? It's a seed. So that's probably the first step I would guide you. Once you have your seed, the next thing I would encourage you to do is collect support material, or in other words, collect your speech content, right? Let me tell you what that is. So if your seed is a person, say you want to speak about your mother or your father because you are very attached to them, or you want to speak about a very dear friend. See, the thing is this, your seed changes with incidents in life. Right? Let me share with you. So let me share with you a few experiences from my life and also from my mentor and my friend Dana's life and a few other friends as well. So in 2013, yeah, in 2013, my friend Dhananjay became a father for the first time. So that year, he was very much about being a parent, being a father. How do you raise your child? How do you dream for your child? His speech is all around that. In 2012, I got married. So a lot of my speeches were around marriage and this concept because during that time, that was the prominent thought in our heads. And then in 2014, sorry, in 2014, I lost my father. My father was, if not still is, the most influential person in my life. My entire life's worth, I owe it to him. So 2014 and even I believe 2015, 16, so many times, somewhere in my speeches, there is a mention of my father and some of the lessons that he has given me as well. And in fact, now that I think about it, my father has been my seed for many years because even in 2012, 11, 12, I have given speeches about him. So that, right? Depending on the things that you go through in life, depending on the people, your seed can be a person. It can even be a teacher, it can be a friend, it can be your loved ones, your spouse, whoever. The seed can be that. And it can also be when you start reading, when you start listening to great speakers, maybe they might share a phrase that really gets you going. And here's the thing, sometimes it might be something as blank or as neutral as never give up. This message you've heard it so many times, the seed is that you want to talk about never giving up. Fine, great. So that's the seed. And after that, I would say content or you collect the support material of your speech. So then you start looking into, regarding that seed, what are the stories I can share? Regarding that seed, have I listened to some nice songs about it? Have I listened to some nice phrases about it? Some idioms, proverbs about it? You start collecting all these things. So it's like building a house, right? The foundation is pretty much your seed, and then after that you start collecting the building material. You bring your bricks, you bring the cement, you bring you mix the mortar, you bring the sand, and then you have all those utilities, and then you bring the workers, the builders who are supporting. You bring all these things together, and then this is a part of a lot of kids go wrong, including myself. For the longest time, I went wrong with this, where we all think we need to do the speech from top down. That means we somehow think, oh, I need to start from my start. I need to think of my start and then I need to work. No, that's never the case. That's never the case. For that matter, I would even tell you, you don't even start by writing a speech. You don't. This is something that I learned from a gentleman called Randy Harvey. If I'm not mistaken, Randy is before 2010, I think. In the 2000 to 2010 period, Randy was a world champion of public speaking in Toastmastering, and I met him at a district conference, and he said, you don't start writing or you don't start scripting your speech. What you first start doing is, when you have your seed, when you have this material, you start speaking. You start talking about it. Because remember, you are not writing a speech and you're not giving a script for people to read it and then be like, oh, that's a great speech. Speech competitions are where you stand up in front of an audience and you speak. When you do that, it's very important. You've got to know what your speech sounds like. You've got to know how does it sound when you say it, right? And also, one of the fundamental mistakes that a lot of us make is we try to write speeches. We need to understand the written language is very different to the spoken language. Some things that read very nice, they don't sound very nice. And also, another thing is this, when we are reading the speech of somebody, if you don't understand what we say, because when you write, usually your sentences are very long. You don't have punctuations or commas or anything like that, right? And you try to use a lot of big words and you construct big sentences, but when you read it, even if somebody doesn't understand, they can go back and read it again. But remember, when you are speaking, what you say, if it doesn't make sense, or if once people heard you, they can't understand what you're talking about, they don't have an opportunity to go back and replay it. So this is why what I learned from Randy, and I want to share with all of you, is you start speaking about your speech. And even Randy, in fact, encourages you to speak or talk about your speech from start to the end. And when you do it a few times, you get a rough structure in your head as to, this is how I need to start, this is probably in the middle of it, and this is how I would end. Once you have spoken about your speech enough, right, you can even do something. Nowadays, all you kids have a smartphone at hand, and all your smartphones have a voice recorder. So you can record as you speak and then try to understand what is it that you are most comfortable with, right? So once you record it, then you can start typing what you have recorded. That way you have what is called a first draft. And by the way, if you are serious about winning a speech contest, your draft needs to be revised so many times. I know speakers from other countries that we correspond and collaborate. We are close friends, especially from India, and also once you have competed internationally, you make friends with a lot of others. I know some very good speakers, on average, they revise their speeches at least 15, 20 times. 15, 20 revisions. And also, if you are working with a coach, with a mentor, with somebody who's guiding you, once you got the first draft, you share it with them. You listen to their feedback and then you edit it again. And once you have what is called like a working version of your draft, that's when you start practicing the delivery of it. And then you probably deliver it to a bit of the audience. And then you try to see the audience reaction. I had a friend, Mr. Satare, right? He's also actually an alumni of University of Colombo, but much senior than you. Satare tells me that he used to practice his speeches in front of his young child and his cats. And sometimes if his cats don't show any reaction or they don't show any response to his speeches, he says, okay, I need to go back and think about my structure and my stories. And his young kids, I think they were about 10 or 12 at the time, if they don't understand, he will go back and do that. And he told me, never do the mistake of doing a speech in front of the wife. I listen to him very much. So again, once you have a draft and once you have edited it a few times and you have a working version, then you run it with your script. And remember, until this time, I did not tell anything about a word-to-word script, memorizing, practicing. No. You're still, you got a seed, you got your material, you started talking about it a lot, and once you have a rough sketch in your head and you have like an idea that this is going to be the flow, then you record yourself, listen to it, and then you pretty much transcribe what you hear. You get a transcript of what you hear, and then that becomes your draft, and now you start working on improving the grammar. Remember, even now when you're editing your speech, you're not going to edit it just like a written article. You're going to edit it. As you edit it, you're going to say it out loud and you're going to listen to yourself and see, does this sound right? Does it sound right? You've got to listen to yourself as you say it, and does it sound right? Am I comfortable saying it this way? And then, if you are, that's when you put it into paper, right? So let's say your script is done. Now, once you have a script, of course, towards the latter part, I will share with you, you've got to work on the script. You've got to see if you have stories. You've got to see how much of the stories add value. And then if your stories, we ask whether the stories have the story value of it. Are there characters? Are there dialogues? Is there a plot to the story? Then you look at again, I'm sharing this with you In the interest of time, I don't really think we have time to go through each and every point and tell you what it is. But generally, you look at a story, and some of the fundamentals about the story is that it needs to have characters. And these characters, you've got to identify them. As much as possible, these characters need a title. For example, instead of saying, I had a friend, give your friend a name, right? And if, like, for example, my friend Bilal, give your friend a name and describe the friend. Say, he's short, he's dark, with a lot of beard, right? Because that's something about increasing the story value is instead of saying I had a friend and I did this, when people find it difficult to relate, the moment you characterize it and bring that character into the story, adds a lot of value. And another thing is stories needs dialogue. People can listen to a very long narration, but sometimes you can save a lot of time, save a lot of context when you give very strong, very powerful dialogue. And then the story needs what is called a story plot, like a storyline. And then your structure needs that the opening has to be attention grabbing, it needs to set the premise, and your conclusion has to be memorable, it needs to summarize things. So this is about the structure that you need to work on. So here's the thing. So far it is about getting your structure ready. Now once, like I said, once you have a working version of your structure and you think you have gotten there, that's when you start practicing your delivery. You start saying your speech in a way and you try to understand your vocal variation. That's the first place to start with. You try to think, which part of the speech am I going to speak fast? Which part of the speech am I going to speak slow? What are the characters that I'm going to use a vocal variation? What are the parts I'm going to slow down? What are the emotional parts? What are the happy parts, sad parts? You try to speak it out and then try to get the rhythm of your vocal variation. Then you work on your physical presence and your delivery style. You ask yourself, what's the best way I'm going to stand and speak? And where on stage should I be when I'm speaking? You start working on that, right? Then you start also thinking, at this point, you start working on your delivery. You're asking, should I use a prop? At what point should I use a prop? How do I increase intensity? How do I bring in emotions? See, now, when you deliver, you keep getting feedback about, okay, when I deliver it like this, does it give the emotion that I want? Or should I deliver it like this? Where should my vocal variation? And remember, one of the things that you need to do is you've got to practice your speech with at least 2 or 3 people in the audience, because especially when it comes to your facial expressions and your eye contact, that is one area that it helps you to practice, right? So your working version of your script, you've got to work on that first. And once that is ready, you go into practicing your delivery. Between this, you have to spend a lot of time. Because once you start delivering, you probably realize certain parts of the speech doesn't really connect with you. So you go back and edit that script, and then you deliver it again and see, okay, how does it go? So you keep going back and forth in this. You get feedback from some of your audience, some of your friends. You share your script with maybe a senior, a mentor, a coach. You get their feedback. You keep working on this. You keep working on this. And I remember in 2011, I think, division contest, for the very first time when I was competing against Sanjay, my coach and my mentor, my friend, I remember I was a first-time speaker. Dana by that time has already competed for about 7 or 8 years. I had a script. I was reading it before going on stage, and I was thinking about it roughly as to where I go. And I saw my friend Dana in a corner with a stopwatch. He's timing his speech. And this is another very important thing that you need to do. And when you time also, you got to time it as much as possible on an actual stage, because sometimes on the actual stage, if you decide to walk a little far, that affects your timing. And I have seen a lot of speakers sometimes get disqualified because of a few seconds. So you must not leave room for these type of things, right? So you practice, and you practice what we call, you get to the perfect practice level. That means sometimes, I know my friends, especially the overseas ones, they even wear the attire that they're going to wear for the contest, and they see how comfortable are they can be. Because I have met and I have seen, no offense to all the ladies, you look very beautiful, but some of the ladies love to dress up for contests. They buy a new jacket, they get into their new heels, and sometimes they wear their nice earrings, and they get on stage, and on the day of the speech, the moment they button their jacket, it's too tight. All of a sudden, your hand movements are restricted. Or you're wearing your favorite earrings, but you forget that you bought those earrings for a dinner dance, not for a speech contest. So now that you are on stage and you're speaking, you have the ladies' earrings dancing next to the speaker. So these are fundamental mistakes that you shouldn't do. So that's why you must even get into the attire of your speech and then practice that, because then it tells you. And another thing that happens is, if you, I hope you all are having a physical contest. I don't know if you all have an online contest, because if it's an online contest, you need to test a lot of things like the distance to the computer, whether you are audible, whether the frame captures. All of these things are a part of the practice that you need to do. And not just that, if you're at a physical contest, most of us use the FM mics. You've got to test your FM mics and then see, do you have a pocket or do you have some part of your pant where you can put the, what do you call the, I don't know, whatever, the mic has the part that you you clip onto your pants and everything. You've got to test these things, right? And on the day of the contest, you need to go there and you need to what we call get on stage, test the sounds, and do all these preparations before you go on stage, because these are the things that could go wrong. So assuming, okay, you got your seed, you got your material, you were talking about the speech a lot, and you got a rough structure, then you scripted it, now you started improving your script, then you practice your delivery, vocal variations, stage usage, body language, you go back and forth, and now you have a good speech, then you start perfect practices. That means in that attire, like you would present it. All this is good. But remember, contest is all about mindset, because at the highest level of speech competition, all the speakers are very good. Their speeches have been revised a lot. They all get help from coaches, mentors, and everything. So on any given day, at the highest level of the competition, I'm pretty sure this is the same for Oration as well. At the highest level of the competition, the speakers are very, very good. The speeches are really good. But I always say, performance, your peak performance is a state of mind. It's not so much. Yes, it really helps if you have written a fantastic speech, if you have practiced it a lot, if you've got help from your mentors and your coaches, it really, really helps. But at the end of the day, it is not just that. On that day, when you go on stage for that 5 to 7 minutes, I have personally seen a lot of great speakers who get nervous and they fumble on their speeches. And because of that minute error, they don't end up on top. And I have also seen seemingly rookie speakers, not very experienced, speeches are average, nothing great, but mentally they are tough, they are strong, they are ready. On that day, they get on stage. In the first 1-2 minutes, they win the audience, their confidence boosts, and they deliver master classes. They deliver amazing speeches. So your mindset is very, very important. I'm going to share with you a few things that is going to be useful. Number one is, you got to visualize before you go on stage how you want your speech to be. You got to visualize in detail as much as possible how do you want this speech to be. You got to visualize how strong and confident you want to be standing there speaking to the audience. You got to visualize how much the audience will enjoy and engage with you. All these things in your mind, you got to put that visual there. That is very strong, that is very powerful. I don't have a lot of time to get into details, but I would encourage all of you all to research a little bit and learn about this thing called the reticular activation system of your brain, RAS, right? This RAS is science, it's all about neuroscience, and this draws the connection between laws of attraction, visualization, and all of that. So I would always tell you, visualize as to how good, how well you want your speech to be. Now, it's natural when you start thinking about visuals, you are dragged through your weak human path, and you're going to think about, okay, what's going to go wrong? I'm going to get stuck. My mic is not going to. No, the idea is you got to visualize positivity. You got to visualize how strong. And here's the thing: you don't need reasons and evidence to think about how strong you want it to be. You just need to want it, and you just need to have an idea. And here's another thing: some of you who are speaking for the very first time, you probably don't have an idea about how strong you want to be on stage. You probably don't have an idea about how strong you want it to be. So this is where I encourage you to listen to some of the great speakers. If you can watch them on YouTube as well, not the best. If you can watch them live, that is the best. But still, even if you can see some videos of them, that is useful. So see how it what it looks like to be really strong, confident, and giving speeches, and then put yourself there and see how you deliver something like that. Visualization is very important technique of getting mentally ready. And then the next thing is, it's about being mentally prepared, or what I mean, you get into your zone, right? I'm sure most people would have seen Usain Bolt before he runs. That guy has less than 10 seconds to change the history, right? Less than 10 seconds. He's running with probably 8 or 10 other fastest men in this world. You don't even have a split second to make a mistake. That's where you lose, right? Have you seen how he does get ready before that? He will listen to some loud music. He will feed off the crowd. He puts himself in the zone. You probably have seen even Sri Lankan cricketers to international cricketers, tennis players, everyone you will see, they probably listen to music. I'm not saying music is the most important thing, but I'm saying music is one of the most common elements that put you in that, what we call the game zone, the in zone, right? And for some of you, it might be slightly different. I find a lot of strength in my breathing. I concentrate on my breathing and I try to get into an aligned position. Might be your thing. I also know a few friends who rely a lot on coffee and things like that. I don't know if that works for you. That works for you. Some people eat as well. I don't know if you're feeling really stuffed. I don't know how much you can perform on stage. But either way, you get into a mental zone, right? And here's another thing. I go back to where I started. You got to be very, very clear about why you're competing, because that should be in front of you before you go on stage. Yes, you want to win, you want to improve all that is there, but you got to ask yourself, there has to be an emotional connection between you and your speech, so that before you go on stage and before you deliver, you get to your best self, your best connection with that speech, and you are going there to say, I'm going to give 100% more than my best. That's a mindset that you need to. Because the moment you get into that hall, even before they start announcing your name and asking you to get on stage, not only judges, the audience and everybody observes you. They see your energy. And if your energy is wobbly like jelly and it's not there, it's weak, well, before you go on stage, you have given your chance to someone else. So that is why it's a mind game. You've got to mentally be tough. And the moment they announce your name and you get off your chair and you start walking to the stage, that moment you have already started your performance. So you can't do that if you don't prepare yourself mentally. And remember this, always, after you give that speech, you're going to get feedback, positive feedback, areas to improve. And more than anything, self-criticism is the worst. A lot of us, if not all of us, feel like, oh, I should have done better. There could have been a better version of that. Don't go there. Don't think about that. Remember, you put everything out on that stage. That's where you leave it. After that, there is nothing you can do. Don't become what we call a sour loser or a very arrogant winner. Don't become that. Whatever the decision, after you have done your performance, that's the end of it. Leave it all out there. Once you get off stage, once that's the end of the presentation, that's the end of that speech. However, if you are, I'm assuming all of you are in this in the long run to help yourself get up, because I've been doing it for 12 years. Although I was successful about 4 years ago in winning 2 titles, I still haven't won an international speech contest in prepared speeches. So I'm still at it after 12 years. After the speech, whether you win or lose, always come back and with yourself, reflect and see, did I do my best? What are the parts I missed? Because those becomes your most important lessons for the next contest or for the next speech. And when you internalize that knowledge, that's how you become better day by day. And one day, when you are better than everyone else in that competition, that's the day you're going to win. Until that day comes, you've got to be constantly improving yourself. All right. So this is what I say. And a few tips that I want to share before I go into Q&A is that when you pick a topic, a few things about winning is that try as much as possible to pick something unique. And what I mean by unique is Not that your message has to be unique. You can word your message unique, even if you want to talk about never give up. Instead of simply saying the words never give up, right? One of the things that you can do is come up with a very creative way of wording that so that the message has something unique about it. Or there could even be stories. Come up with creative, unique stories, because remember, the judges need to remember your speech. The audience need to remember your speech. When they remember your speech, that's when you have a higher chance of winning that particular competition. So always, when you pick a topic, try not to pick standard cliched ones. This is why I encourage a lot of speakers, your content must be as original as possible. That is why a lot of people don't explain this, but they tell you come up with your own story, because your own story, chances are a lot of people haven't heard about it. That's when they become fresh. Remember, so many people have spoken about Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, to Steve Jobs, to all of that. We've heard so much of it. So there is nothing unique about it. You can introduce them, mention them for such a small part of your speech, but don't make your entire speech about how Colonel Sanders came up with the KFC recipe and became a billionaire at his 80 years. No, people have heard it enough. That's not going to cut it for you. So come up with unique content. That is another thing that you have to do. And also come up with what we call, in your speech structure, in your speech, relate to the audience, engage the audience. And this doesn't mean only asking questions. There are different ways of engaging the audience. You can ask them to perform a particular task. You can ask them to bring the words, action words in your speech has to be there, where you encourage your audience to think, ask, imagine. These are words that engage the audience, and they start thinking, imagining, asking, all of that. So engagement is really important. And also, wherever possible, incorporate emotions, and as much as possible, a bit of humor as well. Because for 5 to 7 minutes, if you're telling a very serious story, people are going to be at the audience and they're going to be like at a funeral. That's not good. Humor always works. So think where and how you can bring in some good humor, meaningful, relevant humor. That also helps, right? So I guess with that, I'll probably move on to Q&A, and then we'll keep the rest of the session very interactive. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you all to give me 1 minute, and I'm just going to get myself some water. While I get my water, maybe Hirudini and the rest of the team can coordinate the questions and then let us know what the questions are. I am here. I will just get some water.
Thank you for that very educative session, Toastmaster Sandun Fernando. Now the time has come to hold the Q&A session. In order to do that, all the contestants are free to ask whatever the question they prefer, whatever the areas that they need to get clarified by Toastmaster Sandun Fernando. You have 3 ways. One way is that you can simply use the chat box and direct your question there, or else you can simply unmute yourself and ask the questions once the Toastmaster Sandun Fernando starts off this Q&A session. Either you can use the raise your hand option, and then I can call upon yourself. And once I call upon your name, you can unmute yourself and direct your question to Toastmaster Sandun Fernando. I hope you get a clear picture about the way as to ask questions that you need to be clarified.
You have questions? No questions?
So we have one question on Facebook. So
yeah, go ahead.
Is, if there is a power failure when delivering a speech, should I stop or continue the speech?
Right. So nowadays you have to think of it. If you're doing an online session and there is a power failure, that's really bad, right? I don't know how you recover out of that. But if you're physically delivering a speech and there is a power failure, don't stop, keep going. There are technicalities behind it. You get about 30 seconds grace. And I have personally gone through at least 3 experiences where the mic stopped working and the hall had a blackout and all of that. My strongest recommendation is you have practiced your speech. You know what else needs to be said. Put your best effort and keep going. Keep going.
So Ashwini is raising a question. She is asking via the chat box that how to elaborate more humor your speech.
Okay. So thanks for the question, Ashwini. There are very different techniques of incorporating humor in your speeches. I would say one of the most important or one of the most common ways is to use a little bit of sarcasm. Sarcasm always creates a little bit of humor. And remember, humor doesn't mean that falling off the chair laughter. It just means it puts a bit of a light feeling in the audience. You can use certain words and numbers that are actually funny as well. For example, we say you wanna describe somebody, and instead of saying certain words like there are actual funny words. So, for example, you want to say somebody looks like a lion or a tiger. It doesn't really create that humor. But if you say the moment I have my friend looks like a chimpanzee or an orangutan or a baboon. These are words that are a little funny. So you can use that. You can use numbers, and then exaggeration is also a technique of delivering humor where you exaggerate things a little bit more. You use your body language, you use a little bit of facial expressions and vocal variation. You exaggerate, dramatize it a little bit to create a bit of humor. And then also there is this technique called the twist, where you lead the audience to believe something and then at the end you give a very funny twist. It's also called the punchline. So these are some of the techniques of incorporating humor. But actually the thing is, we need to look at a speech, we need to see the context of it and use these techniques and incorporate humor, because it's not very easy to generally say this is humor, this is it's pretty much on the context. I hope it makes sense. Okay, so Ranindu, how long before the competition day you start making the speech, and how much time do you actually commit per day roughly to your speech? Okay, so the reality is a lot of us write the speech the day before the competition. I think that's not a great idea. If you're very serious about your competition, I would say you need at least 2 to 3 weeks before. I know certain speakers who start practicing during October, November for February, March competitions. They take about 2, 3 months. There is no upper limit to say this is, if you practice 1 year, that's bad. No. But minimum, I would say, if you want to be anywhere better and serious, you need to start at least 2, 3 weeks before. And what I mean by 2, 3 weeks before is you need to have a working speech ready 2, 3 weeks before. And it's like this. Winning is not guaranteed. I remember telling this in 2015 after a miserable failure. What I say is winning or the outcome is not guaranteed. It's directly proportionate to the effort you put in. So if you take 3 weeks, every day if you put in at least 2 hours, practice, and then to improve, get feedback, you will have a much better speech and a much better chance of winning the competition. But I also need to highlight that when it comes to prepared speeches, there is what we call a danger of the delivery becoming stale or sterile. That means you practice it so much that now there is no emotion, there is no rawness when you deliver it. You must not over practice and over rehearse it so that it falls flat also. So you have to manage it, but I would easily say 2, 3 weeks, at least a couple of hours a day, you need to put and get yourself ready for that.
If anyone have further questions or areas to get clarified, they can simply use the chat box. Yeah.
Yes, I have a question. So it can be uncomfortable not to have a physical audience. So is there any tip?
Sorry, say that again. I didn't hear the last part.
Can you repeat the question? Malmi, can you repeat the question. Toastmaster Sandhu didn't get your question.
Sorry, I didn't hear it fully.
You can simply type the question in the chat.
Yeah, you can type. Yeah, I think that will be easier.
So we have Nilukshan. So Nilukshan, can you unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yeah, thank you, Hidini. I think I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sandun, for joining us. So my question is, so when I've been practicing for my speech, was noticed, informed by some of my friends and also the evaluator that I am not allowed to use certain words when adding some elements. So, for instance, when I'm trying to describe how Asian parents punish their kids for being naughty, so in those situations, I'm not allowed to use the word abuse or domestic abuse. So what kind of such words should I avoid when presenting my speech?
Okay, so
I mean, not particularly the word, but if you know what I mean.
Okay. So here's the thing. Generally in Toastmasters competitions, it's not a rule per se, more like an understanding where people are encouraged not to speak about sex, religion, and politics. Simply because the idea is this, that if you put a very strong opinion and your audience probably disagree with that, then you have a disadvantage of disconnecting with the audience, or even some of the judges feeling like, okay, I didn't agree with you. So the point to keep in mind is, if you come out very strong in certain controversial opinions, you have a disadvantage. That is the thing. And apart from that, except for slang words, or how do I say, colloquial filth words, or you use a very different foreign word, like even if you say something in Sinhalese, you must explain that, or you must give the English version, because if the competition is in English, everybody who's listening to you should be able to understand in English. Those are the general guidelines, Nilukshan. Other than that, like I said, general understanding is sex, religion, and politics, simply because you don't want to put an opinion that alienate you or distance you from the audience. Other than that, as far as I understand, there is no taboo topic as such. It's about how you incorporate it in your speech and then deliver it so that it doesn't offend anyone. At least that's what I would look at it, Nilukshan.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Sandun.
We have several questions raised in the chat box.
Right.
So most of them are asking about certain techniques.
Okay.
Mohan is asking, hi Toastmaster, can you give some tips on stage usage and body language?
Right. So here's the thing. The most important thing about delivery that I want to share with you guys is, don't dramatize your speech. Remember, you're not doing a theater presentation, and this has been misunderstood lately, because even the world champion stage have had a lot of people who try to present a dramatic monologue on speech. That on stage, that is not the expectation. No. What I generally encourage people is, when you go through your script and your speech, you identify a few important pivotal points in your speech. What I say is, those points add your delivery. And when it comes to stage usage, what you need to keep in mind is, identify the important parts of your speech. Maybe you have like a past story, maybe you're looking at the future, maybe you're looking at something that happened at home versus something that happened at office. So like that, where there are very clear demarcations in your stories or in your speech, use different parts of your stage when you are speaking about them. That way it's easy for the audience to remember, okay, while he was in school, this thing happened, and now he's in office, this thing happened. So for you, it's easy to go back there, speak about the school, come here, speak about the office. Or while you are at office, if you want to say something like, while I was in school, I remember, and you can point to that part of the stage where you were talking about the school. That will take your audience to that place. So it's called basically your crafting the parts of the stage to the different parts of the speech. These are the general recommendations, but more than what to do, there is a lot of natural body language and things that come, but more than what to do, what is important is what not to do, and what not to do is every sentence of your speech should not have body language and synchronized. It looks very artificial. I have seen a lot of that. This is where you need to get a bit of feedback from your friends and colleagues to say that, are you being too dramatic? There is like every word, does it have like body language, stage and all of that? It's just too much. That's the idea. I hope that is useful.
Since Toastmaster Sandun, since lots of contestants are asking about stage moments, and especially this contest is held via an online platform, are there any special techniques and guidelines we could specifically follow?
Okay, so like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of having a public speaking contest online where you don't have a public, you only have a computer. But I understand the pandemic and then the new norm and all of that. So here's what I would say. Now, my background today is not the ideal background when you're in a speech contest, because there are parts of a clothes rack and something that is a little distracting. So I would always say, have a plain background and preferably a light background. White is not essential, but a light plain background is important. And depending on your speech, body language, keep your distance from the stage. Now you can see me. I would say something like this, where you have a few inches between the upper limit of the screen, and also you have the width of the screen like this, where you are in the middle. This is usually like a good distance. But what you need to keep in mind is the audio's setup of your computer needs to support that. If you stay at this distance and speak, and if everybody can hear you well, that is good. If not, you've got to be mindful. And also, today, my computer is set up a little below my eye level. So when it is set up below the eye level, that is also not a good thing, because you have to look down. As you look down, your voice projection is muffled a little bit. So ideally, you need to place your computer something like this. This is the ideal height for me. Because here the camera is at my eye level, and my voice projection, I have opportunities. So today, since it is here, I'm looking down a little bit. And also the other thing is, whenever you speak to a camera, you notice what I'm doing right now. I'm not looking at myself in the screen, I'm looking at the camera. So because I'm looking at the camera, all of you who's looking at the screen, you feel like I'm talking to you. This is one of the most important things you need to remember when you're taking part in an online contest, because you should not be checking yourself out in the giant screen and then looking at you and speaking, because notice what I'm doing right now. Now I'm looking at myself in the screen and I'm talking. My eye contact is not with you. But now I'm looking at the camera and I'm talking to you, and it seems like all of you are talking to you. So when you're speaking, distance is important. The audibility is important, and then the next thing is your eye contact. These are few tips about online speaking to a camera. And also remember, when you're speaking to a camera, sorry, don't use a lot of, how do I say, wide gestures and things like that, because what happens there is you become too far and there is too much, audience can't follow you. So have a plain background and use that.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sandun, for that amazing answer. And another question has been asked from Facebook by Gihan Pradeep. He is asking how many stories that we should incorporate to our speech in order to give the best out of the speech. Right.
So it's a tricky question, because I have seen people with one story win competitions, and I have also seen people with 2-3 stories win competitions. So ideally, it is how relevant those stories are, and then what you do with those stories, that is what is important. I can't necessarily say there is a magic number of stories in your speech that you're going to win, right? But it all comes down to your skill and your potential of what you do with those stories. So I don't want to tell you that one long story, because there is an opinion out there with some of the judges and senior people that if you have one story and it is very long, then it becomes very boring, you can't connect. I don't necessarily agree with that, because I have seen speakers with one story, and then in between the story they create enough variations, they engage with the audience, and they the idea is the relevance, and then the excitement of the story needs to be there. Whether it's one story, two, three. I also understand there's a very popular opinion where a lot of people say there has to be at least 3 stories. I don't know. Because you can even tell a story in less than 10 words. So that still becomes a story. And then also there is another understanding about scenes. One story will have multiple scenes. So those are not necessarily different stories, they are scenes. So I suppose the answer you should be looking at is not if there is a specific number, but how do you relate to the seed of the speech, the relevance to it, and also how do you keep the excitement of it. I noticed Ganesh has got a hand raised. Have you taken the question? Or?
Yes, I have. I have this problem where I start my speech confidently, but somewhere in the middle I hit a mid-speech crisis, and all I look for is to leave the stage, and my speech just trails off. How can I correct this and keep my focus on the speech while I'm speaking?
Okay. Can I ask, do you practice the full speech, start to the end?
Yes, I have. I have done a session where I spoke to some experienced speaker, and at the almost close to the end of the speech, I actually forgot what I had to say next because I was like looking so forward to end this. So
okay, all right. So here's the thing. One of the techniques we use in speech practices is that once you're familiar with the speech, we encourage speakers not to practice the speech from start to the end, but at different points, start maybe after the second paragraph, start maybe after 2 minutes. Where do you start? Start the second story. We ask you to practice your speech from different parts. That way you're very familiar with your speech. If by chance something were to happen and you have like a blackout for a moment, you still know to start from different places to pick up. That would be the recommendation. But if you say that you're losing interest halfway through, I would ask you to go back and look at the script and see if the script has been done properly, where the important parts of the speech is connected in such a way that there is equal amount of energy and excitement that is built throughout the story. The other thing is, when you're delivering the speech, try not to think about other things that's happening outside and that's happening elsewhere, because that way you might get distracted, and like you said, you might lose the train of thought. But other than that, it's about practicing from different parts, building enough excitement, energy in the speech at different parts that it gets you to go. That's probably what I can share, Ganesh. Hope that's useful.
Thank you for that question, Ganeshini. So next in line, we have another question asked in the chat box asking if there's an informative speech, can we use a PowerPoint presentation?
Okay, you can, but you got to be very mindful that you have to practice it precisely. Because what you don't want to do is during your presentation, if you are using even a clicker, you got to make sure that the clicker is working perfect. And my experience is clickers never fail to let you down, right? So if you're using a clicker, you got to be very mindful. If you're holding on to it, your fist is going to be clenched. Or if you put it in your pocket and press the wrong button and the slides start changing, you have to think of the practical challenges of using a slide. Or you can get someone else to change the slides for you, but it shouldn't happen where in the middle of the speech you're looking at the person and saying change. These are the practical things about using slides that might be challenging. And also, if you're doing an online session and you're using PowerPoints, I don't know, because it takes away your face from the screen unless you're sharing the screen. It's I believe it's paper parlance, right? Abhirami asking the question. So I would say mostly think about the practical way of handling the slides smoothly. If you can pull that off, there is no technical problem about, there's nothing to say that you can't use a slide. It's just that if you don't synchronize and practice it well and it happens as a part of your speech, you're at a disadvantage. That's the only thing. But someone.
Are there any further questions?
There are a few people raising their hands, right?
Okay. People who raise their hand can simply unmute themselves and directly ask the question.
Hi, can I go? Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, Toastmaster Sandun. Thank you so much for doing this. So I have a question. This is I'm asking for the benefit of all of the people who are preparing to take part in Oration. So to give you a bit of a background to my question, we had a few sessions where we got these speakers to present their speeches, and we had like a senior Gavelier kind of give them feedback on their speech. So my question is, how much of that feedback do we actually really need to take into consideration about, their feedback about our speech? Because it's like sometimes I'm sure the senior Gavelier's idea on what we're doing wrong may not be what we kind of think. So do you have anything to say about that?
Okay, thanks. I think that's an important question. And I have seen a lot of not only Gaveliers, I have seen a lot of very senior speakers also. They get confused because they go to 2-3 coaches or mentors to get feedback, which is not a bad thing. But they do it very close to the competition. And depending on the seniors that you go to, you need to understand all speakers have a unique style about them, whether you're very senior or very junior. I know there are certain speakers who are very big about storytelling. I know there are seniors who are very big about humor, right? So these type of coaches or these mentors also give you feedback based on their experiences. Now, what might happen to an individual is if you go to 2-3 speakers or 2-3 coaches or seniors and they tell you 2-3 different things about the same point, that's going to leave you thoroughly confused. You're probably thinking, oh my God, should I do this or not? Right? So my answer, slightly longer answer, is that I encourage you to go to different mentors and coaches, but you've got to do it well in advance so that you have enough time to finally take all that feedback, sit down and decide for yourself, based on my skill, based on my talent, what is the best way to do it, decide and then go ahead. If not, I would say pick a particular senior or a coach or a mentor who resonates a lot with your style of speaking, and then work with them. Because don't be too greedy to get everybody's opinion. Like you rightly said, you might get a lot of people to look at it and give their opinion, but it might leave you thoroughly confused because on the same point there will be 2, 3, 4, 5 different angles, right? At the end of the day, what is important is you as the speaker who's going to deliver the speech, as the creator of the speech, you should be 100% comfortable with it. Unless there is a coach who's working with you through and helping you to bring it out, you need to decide what is important, what's the feedback I'm going to take. There is no formula to determine that, but I would encourage you, if it is close to the competition, don't go to a lot of different speakers, simply because depending on their style, they might confuse you more. I hope that answers.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, next in line we have Sanduleka. Sanduleka, unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hi, sir. I don't know if this is a stupid question, but I have this issue where
it's a stupid question.
So this is like when do you stop editing the speech? Like the longer I spend with it, the more it's like those selfie things where the longer you spend, you start looking like a tramp preacher. And like every time, it's like the golden timer rule. Like the minute I write it, it's good, but then revisiting it, I edit it and then I re-edit it. Like, where exactly do you stop it?
Okay, that's also interesting because I'll tell you the best part where you get revisions is the moment you finish the speech. The moment you finish your delivery and you go back, you get like 100 ideas of doing it. So it's a fair question because probably every 2 days, if you go back to your speech, you probably get a new idea. It's more about being practical and understanding that at some point you got to stop it and then think, this is the version I'm going to work with. There is no formula to tell you this is the point. As long as you have a reasonable amount of confidence and you have shared it with a few people and they have given their thumbs up saying it's good, I believe that's where you need to start working on. Unless something very significant pops out, these minor adjustments will always come. And like I said, the best part comes after you deliver the speech. So don't get carried away with that. Work with your level of confidence. If you're always getting new ideas, at a point, just park them and say, okay, this is what I'm going to work with.
Right.
So it's more about a personal experience.
Thank you.
So we also, we do have
2 questions.
question. Yeah.
Mohan is asking, what's the ideal distance with the camera online contest? Is the level above the hip is enough, or the whole figure is needed for a better stage usage? No, I would say if it is an online contest, this type of a distance is good. If you can maintain like the torso, upper part of the body, that is good, because just to catch yourself, if you go really far, you're far from the mic and then you might not be as audible. That is why you need to come maybe someplace like this in speed, level above the hip, or the figure needs to be, yeah. So I hope that answers you, Mohan. Dham is asking, is it useful to use an item that related to my speech, like a guitar or something? Yeah, props are always encouraged. If you have a prop, it's good, but be mindful if you are using a prop while you're on a Zoom or on a screen and on online contest. You need to have your prop in a place. You can't be like me where you're going to mute the camera or switch off the camera and be like, wait, I'll get the prop. It shouldn't be that. So if you're using it, practice yourself so that it's at a place where you can quickly grab it and then do it. I hope that helps.
So are there any further questions?
Yes, Hirandini, I do have a question. Thank you, Toastmaster Sandun, for this session today. It was amazing just sitting here and listening to you. I've always loved listening to you. But I do have a question on the use of stories in speeches. So a lot of us tend to use personal stories, but some of them do get quite emotional. So when certain things go a bit too far and get too emotional, that's when the audience starts feeling uncomfortable. So how do we figure out, like, if this question is a good, if this story is a good story to be using in our speech?
Okay. So I would always tell you, you need to trust your gut instincts when it comes to a story, and also you can get feedback from someone you really trust and you have confidence in. Because what you shouldn't do is, you must not use a speech contest or a competition speech as a therapy session to come out of some deep emotion and then do that. I don't encourage that, because at the end of the day, it's a contest and you're taking part for a reason. So because of that, I would ask you to use your moral compass and determine for yourself, do I want to be talking about it, and do I want to? And then the next thing is, it doesn't matter what the story is, there is always a way you bring it out. The words that you use, the adjectives that you use, the plot that you create, that can be tweaked a little bit to reduce the intensity and the, say for example, sometimes you might have to talk about certain ugly truths. And if you can do it very well, that's where you might even stand a chance of winning as well. So it's just a matter of what are the words that you use and to what detail do you go down, so that you don't necessarily make your audience uncomfortable. That is what you shouldn't do. Uncomfortable and disgusted to a level that they are going to disconnect with you and feel like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with this person. That's where you shouldn't go. Instead, what you should do is, any story, you can say it in a way where you can balance the intensity. So that is where you need a little bit of help and guidance, and that's what I would like to say, Shamla. Use that, tell any story that you want, but train yourself to use the right words and maintain rapport with your audience without distancing or alienating them.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sandun. Thank you.
Tanushi is there. She's asking. Is she?
Yeah. Good evening, Toastmaster Sandun, and thanks for the amazing session. So my question is, since we are at home, there are chances of happening some distractions. Like, we are at home and sometimes we can't help there are some distractions that we have to undergo while doing a speech. It's not like a setting to do a speech. So if there's such a distraction, how can we recover from it while doing a speech?
Okay, Tanushi, the truth be told, it's a really bad luck if you have that. So if you know you're getting ready for a competition, and I strongly encourage you to have a chat with your family, maybe the day before the contest or a couple of hours before the contest, you call a family council meeting and tell everyone, okay, at this time today I have a speech contest I'm going to be doing. Keep the cat aside, keep the dog aside, stop playing and everything. Give them those basic guidelines so that they respect you. And also find a corner in your house that you have a little bit of space where you can move and do this without getting distracted. That's another point. And the other thing is, as of now, curfew is lifted, social distancing rules are relatively relaxed. So because of that, even if you have an online contest, if possible, go to a place like a library or an auditorium or a place in your university or a place where you know those are study places where a lot of people won't come and disturb you. Be organized to that level where you do that. But it's mostly, Tanushi, about communicating to your family, to the loved ones who stay with you, to your friends and everyone, and managing the situation. And I would also encourage, put your phones off if you are at a contest. As much as possible, take all the distractions away. Make sure the camera is placed at a blank location as well, so that when you look at it, you don't get distracted by moving objects and everything. So it's about communicating in advance, talking to the relevant parties and getting it organized. And like I said, if possible, go to a place like an auditorium, a hall or classroom or something that you can get it organized and get the help of your friends to ensure that it works. That's the best I can, because these are things, limitations you got to work with.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, now we have Shiny asking a bit of a long question. Hi, sir. Naturally, low-pitched vocals are more comfortable for hearing rather than high-pitched. Normally, us girls, when start talking a bit in high volume, the vocals get all squeaky and hard to concentrate for the listeners. How to make this natural problem less problematic in this online competition, because we can't talk softly here with no mics. Within brackets, I have no idea whether my problem is totally unrelated and uncommon and I should just contact a vocal trainer.
Okay, so I probably understand what you're talking about, Shiny, where naturally male and female voices have a different range, right? Male voices tend to be a little low pitch, so because of that, we can scream and say things, and there is a little bit of intensity that comes with it. Whereas a female with a high pitched tone, if you try to increase your voice, it sounds creaky. You are right. You can get the help of a voice coach to modulate your voice in a way that you can bring the loud intensity, but without going a straight. How do I say? Without sounding like a scream or a screech. But at the other end, what I would suggest is, so the tone and the pitch is one thing, and then the energy, right? The intensity and the energy is another thing. If you want to mention like something angry or aggressive or a little harsh, you can do that without screaming. You can maybe increase the pace. You can put a bit of depth into the voice and then say it without screaming very high. You're right, you have to be mindful about the acoustics, and also you have to be mindful about the audience as well. So if possible, if you have access to a voice coach, that might be fantastic. But otherwise, try 2-3 different ways of dropping your, dropping your face so that the bass part of it comes, and then increase the intensity, add a bit of facial variation, facial expressions, and say it without having to scream. So it's more like figuring it out yourself, but I hope what I said makes sense.
We have another question. How do you get better without the incentive of an upcoming competition, within brackets, with neither a test audience nor a coach?
Right. So I'll give you a few tips on that. It's very important. Thanks for asking that, Samsung Note 8. Right. Okay. So one thing that I did was, I have a group of friends. We meet very often, at least once in 2-3 weeks. We meet, whether it is in season or off season, whether we are in speech competition season or otherwise we meet. It's a thing that we all like. So you need to get into a group of like-minded people who like public speaking, who like to get better. Spend time with them. We have certain rituals where we do certain random table topics and we start discussing speech ideas. We also have a WhatsApp group where if we come across interesting speeches or speakers, not only Toastmasters, we have analyzed speakers like Barack Obama, we have analyzed speakers like Tony Robbins. Very recently, we shared in that group a speech from Trevor Noah, if you know, the host for the late show. So we put these clips and we ask our friends, okay, this is a fantastic clip. What do you think about this speech? Then they will say, okay, he used this story, he used this character. So you got to create a setup and you got to get into a group of like-minded people who are interested in this topic and who are working towards that. And also, if there is no speech competition coming up, that is fine. It's a matter of having a system where you tell yourself, okay, once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I have 2-3 friends, I'm going to meet with them and then do this. And also the time that we usually spend online wasting, going through each other's walls in some useless Instagram page, use that time to maybe listen to a few speakers, and then whenever you listen to it, have the discipline of carrying like a small notebook. I mean, I can show you all my notebook. I carry this everywhere, and wherever I learn something interesting, I make a small note of it. So we develop that discipline of making notes of interesting speakers, techniques, stories that you can later on use. So this is what you need to do. And also Samsung Note 8, keep in mind that the best incentive that you can give yourself is the vision of becoming a great speaker and influencing the world to be a better place. And that incentive should keep you gripped to get better every day. I hope that is useful. Udita, sorry, you have been having your hand raised.
Yes, Toastmaster Sandun, we have another question from Facebook.
Right.
That I resonate with a lot. The question, there are 8 contestants in the competition. Am I, okay. So you're basically asking if there's an advantage of delivering first or last.
Oh, right. So this is also a bit of a tricky question. If you ask my personal opinion, I say the first couple of speakers have a slight disadvantage simply because the audience and the judges take a bit of time to warm up. It's just my personal opinion. There is no scientific evidence to come and say, because the rule has an exception, and I have seen speakers who come as the first or the second and win competitions also. Bottom line is, it's about how confident are you and how good your speech is and how well you have prepared. But at a very personal level, I do feel the first and the second, in most cases, speakers have a slight disadvantage. Similarly, the last speaker also tends to have a disadvantage if the previous speakers have been fantastic. So there is no science behind it. It's a matter of you being very confident and you being very, how do I say it? The moment you come on stage, you're very power-packed so that you can deliver it. At a very personal level, let me end it with that saying, if I have to change, I might change, not go first and second.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So do we have any further questions? Okay. We have 5 minutes more to conclude the Q&A session. So you're free to ask any question from Toastmaster Sandun Fernando that you need to get clarified and sorted out.
Yes, I have a question here, Rudini.
Yes, go ahead.
So, Toastmaster Sandun, I want to know, when we do the speech, we automatically look at ourselves in the screen and we forget to look at webcam. So, if we do like that, do we lose our marks for eye contact?
Well, it's not so much, Malvi, about losing marks, but it is more about you disconnect. That's a disadvantage. And clearly, when there is a screen with yourself in front of you, it's natural that you start looking at yourself, because let's admit it, all of us are big narcissists, and this selfie culture has made us very, very egoistic. So the moment we see ourselves, I mean, not only you, I'm a part of that as well. Now it is so much so that when I walk on the sidewalk and if there is a glass a shop, how do I say, window, and I see myself, I tend to do a bit of a, Old Spice walk or something. So my recommendation, like you rightly said, is a slight distraction. So if possible, you change the settings in a way that you don't see yourself. Otherwise, you have to either put like a small red flag right above the camera, not to close the camera, but maybe something like a mark a little above the camera, and then keep telling yourself that you're looking at it and do that. That's what I can say. I hope that is useful.
Thank you very much.
Tenuka.
First of all, thank you, Toastmaster, for all these advices. I have one slight question. let's say if we have something regarded to facts we are presenting in our speech, and the facts are related to some restricted domain. So is it okay to present facts on such a domain that I believe sometimes that the judges or the audience might not be familiar with?
Okay. So whenever you're the rule about facts is that, or for that matter, anything about supporting material is that it has to be relevant and you've got to build the credibility around it. And everything about your speech has a underlying objective of connecting to the audience. So if you're speaking about something that you believe or that you think the audience might not be able to relate or they might not know the source, you need to mention that in a way that your connection is established. That is what I would encourage. And like I told one of the previous speakers also, you need to take the responsibility of your content, that the content adds value to your speech and it builds rapport and connection with the audience. And if you're saying something that you're not sure whether it is going to distance the audience or whether it's going to put them away, think twice. It is not that it's a rule, it's just that it's a disadvantage when people disconnect with you, because it's hard to then bring them back and connect. That is my way of, how do I say it, determining whether that facts or stories or whatever should go to my speech or not. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you, Toastmaster.
So since we are running out of time, if any contestant have any further question, they are free to ask in this last minute. So if not, we can conclude the Q&A session, hopefully.
No problem. Thanks a lot for having me, guys. All the very best. And
No,
I get a little nervous and get started.
Yeah.
Danya has one question. Color cards. Okay. See, now this is the thing, Danya. If you practice your speech and you have timed yourself and you know that your speech at a particular time, I don't necessarily think the color cards will discourage you a lot, right? So when you practice your speech and you have a rough idea that the green card comes at 5 minutes and at 5 minutes I'm talking about this part of my speech roughly, the amber card comes at 6 minutes and at 6 minutes I'm roughly at this part of my speech. So if you have practiced yourself with timing and you know this is where you are, I think that is the best thing you can do to calm your nerves and not get distracted with the timing. So I know I keep going back to practice, but especially when it comes to a prepared speech contest, the whole idea about being prepared is that you've got to practice and then be ready for it. So when you practice with the timing and you are confident that your speech finishes at 6.5 minutes, 6 minutes 45 and things like that, I think that should give you the confidence to face the color cards. That's what I would say.
Okay, now thank you so much, Toastmaster Sandun, for that very educative session. Especially, one of the favorite things that I learned from you in today's session is that participating in a competition is not only about winning, it's about improving yourself into a much better position. So thank you very much for that eye-opening session. And at the very beginning of the workshop, I mentioned you that we have a special announcement to make for all the contestants. So what is that surprise? It is that as the organizing committee, we have decided to increase our cash prizes for the winners of Oration 2020. In fact, for the first place winner, we are giving 20,000 rupees cash prize, and for the first runner-up it would be 15,000 rupees cash prize, as you very correctly see in the screen. For the second runner-up we have 10,000 rupees cash prize. Again, for the most popular speaker we have 10,000 rupees cash prize, and respectively for the fourth, fifth and sixth places again we have 2,000 rupees cash prizes each. I believe that this cash prizes would give you an incentive to participate to Oration 2020, secure your winning positions and win those cash prizes hopefully in the finale of Oration 2020. And now the time has come to deliver the vote of thanks. And in order to do that, I'm now going to hand over the control to our beloved president of the Gavel Club of University of Colombo, Cavalier Udita Veerasinghe. Yavaliya Udita Veerasinghe, over to you.
Thank you, Hiradini. First of all, I'd like to thank Toastmaster Sandun Fernando for that wonderful session. I'm sure everyone in this audience learned a lot and enjoyed a lot from your session. Next up, I'd like to thank Creative Software for sponsoring this workshop. They've been very helpful to make our projects successful. Also, we are collaborating with the Career Guidance Unit, the Faculty of Science, and I'd like to especially mention Professor Chamari Hettiarachchi for providing us a data-free Zoom link from the Learn Network for us to hold this workshop. We are very thankful to the Career Guidance Unit for that. Also to FOSS Media for live streaming this on Facebook. We even got quite a few questions from our Facebook live stream. So we are very thankful to FOSS Media for giving us that opportunity to get connected with our audiences all around the country. Also to the wonderful organizing committee, I need to really thank you for organizing this workshop. You've done a really wonderful job. I hope you all keep doing this wonderful work for the rest of this competition to make this a success. Last but not least, I'd like to thank all our participants. Those who are competing, those who are still thinking about competing, because the registrations are closing tomorrow. Those who are still thinking about competing, and for those of you who joined us on Facebook. Thank you all for watching. Back to you, Hiradini.
Thank you so much, our President Udita Veerasinghe. With the time restriction, now the time has come to conclude our workshop. And thank you for everyone joining with us today. And hopefully I wish all the very best for all the contestants and see you in the preliminary round.